Okay, friends, the first thing you need to do is draw your horizon line. Go to the top of your paper. Your horizon line does not need to be straight. Ground is not straight. Above your horizon line, you can add some mountains, you can add some trees, it doesn't matter, but it's in the background, so it's far away, so they're small and not detailed. Now we are going to work on your middle ground and foreground. As something gets farther away, it gets smaller. So, starting on your horizon line, you are going to draw two lines angled out towards the bottom of your paper. It's going to look like a triangle. Draw light until you have it right. I'm going to draw a little bit harder so you can see on the camera. Next, we are going to sketch in our pumpkins by drawing circles. Draw them inside your triangle. If they go outside a little bit, that's a-okay. But you're first just drawing circles. Remember, as they get farther away, they are going to get smaller. If you make a mistake, erase it. That's why we draw light until we have it right. Once your pumpkins are traced on, you're going to start your stems. I started with a circle, added two lines, and ended with a circle on the bottom. Then you can just add some lines and details onto your stem. At the bottom of your pumpkin stem, start curving your lines out. Notice how I'm following my lines on my circle, and then the back of the pumpkin, use the back of your circle. Once again, this guy's going to be on his side. Start with a circle, two lines out, finish the stem, and add your lines onto your stem. This guy's on the side, so my lines are going to be more like a pinwheel coming out from my circle. It's okay if your lines go off the edge. It makes your project more interesting. Notice how this pumpkin is further away and it's behind the first pumpkin. He's overlapping. The first pumpkin is overlapping the second pumpkin, so I don't see the whole pumpkin. That gives you the sense of depth. Depth is how far away something is. In art, we call this space. No, not where the moon and the stars are, not outer space, but space or depth in your picture. Continuing to follow your lines, you're going to draw in the rest of your pumpkins. Erase any lines you don't use. Remember, the farther away you get, the smaller they go and the less details they have. I like to draw my pumpkins in clumps of 3 or 4. They naturally do that. Now these pumpkins are already cut off the stem. If you'd like to draw some stems, you can. If you'd like to draw some curlicues coming off your pumpkins, you can. Just remember, the details are on the ones that are the biggest and the closest to you. As they get farther away, they're less detailed and they're smaller. Now we're going to use our crayons to color in our pumpkin patch. So when you are coloring, craftsmanship is important. Craftsmanship is how nice and neat you're doing your project. So I'm going to look for craftsmanship. When you color something one way, you continuing to color the whole project that way. You're not going to change directions. So I'm actually going to start with my horizon line where the sky and the ground meet. So I'm going to trace the whole thing and then I'm going to color the inside. That helps so it's nice and neat and it doesn't encourage me to start drawing left to right and then right to left. So I'm going to trace the whole thing and then I'm going to go in and color the inside one direction. Same thing with my pumpkins. I'm going to first do my stems. I like to trace the outside dark, and then I'll color the inside a little bit lighter. Now your stems can be green, they can be brown, they can have green and yellow. Pumpkin stems turn brown after you cut them, but when they're on the vine, they're still green. So it's totally up to you. Use your own artistic choices to pick what colors you would like to color in your pumpkin stem. Please don't color them in solid. That's boring. Make sure you have multiple colors, but craftsmanship is important. Nice and neat. Once again, take your crayon, trace the outside, go over all of your pencil lines first, nice and dark, nice and neat. Remember, pumpkins can be more than one color. They have oranges, they have yellows, they have some reds, and even some browns. So after you have yours, you can use different color oranges or yellows. And I'm going to show you one technique on this little guy. I went and put yellow on the inside, not coloring the whole entire thing, each section separately. And then I went over it with the orange. And you're going to notice the closer it is to the lines, the darker it is. And in the center of each one of those little wedges, it's actually lighter because pumpkins are curved all the way around. And then each one of those little wedges also have a bump out. So the closer you are to the lines, the darker it is. One more time. Yellow. And then I'm going to go over it with my orange. You can go over the whole thing. Remember, you're coloring each wedge individually. You're not going to just color the entire pumpkin. Even though it's the same color, you're not going to scribble over the whole thing. Notice how I'm even going over the edges a little bit darker. It helps give you that value or that sense of depth. The reason why those sections are darker is it's actually harder for the light to get in those little crevices. So the pumpkin looks darker. If you want a crayon to get darker, you just press a little bit harder where you want it to be dark, and where you want it to be light, you just press it a little bit lighter. Typically, I find it if you hold the crayon higher up when you're trying to get it lighter, it's easier, and then closer to the tip if you want to press harder and make it darker. Now, on this pumpkin, I'm just going to go over my lines and make them nice and clean and dark. Now I'm going to go in between and press lightly with a lighter orange. Remember, each wedge colored separately. You're not scribbling over the entire pumpkin. So once I went over my lines dark, I'm going over the edges, not the entire wedge, by pressing firmly with an orange, and then I'm going to go in between and press a little bit lighter. And once again, get you that same value scale. Dark on the edge, and then coloring in the middle a little bit lighter. Dark on the edge, and then pressing the lighter. See how I'm holding further up on the crayon? So, depth is shown by how large the item is. Is the pumpkin overlapping another pumpkin? That can also show depth. Depth can also be shown by color. So as something gets farther away, it actually gets lighter in color. It gets lighter in color. The things that are closest to you are the darkest, the most detailed, and the biggest. As they get farther away, they get smaller, less detailed, and lighter. How you color in your landscape is up to you. What colors you use, what you add, the details, it's up to you. So I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to finish coloring, but you need to color the whole thing. Make sure there's no white showing.